March 8, 1945 marked the unsettling start of the Mary Jane Van Gilder mystery. On this day, she abruptly requested to be released from her job, setting a series of unanswered questions into motion. At the time, her 5 children resided with their father, her estranged husband, far away in West Virginia. Her last known mailing address pinned her in Willard, Ohio. From then on, silence enveloped her existence. Her children, left in the dark, ultimately reported her missing to the Shelby Police Department in 2018, 73 years after they last heard from their mother. What would have compelled Mary Jane to vanish without a trace? What could have made her children wait until 73 years before filing a report to the police? Mary Jane Croft Van Gilder's life, filled with complexities and marked by the echoes of rural American struggles, began in Montana, West Virginia. Born on November 19, 1911, she was the 4th child in a large family of 8 children belonging to John and Anna Croft. By 1920, her family resided in the Winfield district of Marion County, about 10 miles from Fairmont. Her father, John, was a hardworking man, juggling roles as a farmer and a coal miner, reflecting the rugged life of many during that era. On January 29, 1929, a young Mary Jane married James Wesley Van Gilder. They lived in the same Winfield district where she grew up. Over the next several years, their family grew rapidly. Their first child, Anna, was born on March 19, 1931. By 1940, Mary Jane and James had expanded their family to include 7 children, although 2, twins Alan and Alice, tragically didn't survive childbirth in 1935. The Van Gilders lived on Prickett's Creek, on land owned by the Van Gilder family. Despite the public strides being made, private life at the Van Gilder household was fraught with difficulties. Family members hinted at a turbulent atmosphere, largely due to James's struggles with alcoholism. This tension took its toll on their marriage, and by 1943, Mary Jane sought a reprieve. She moved into Fairmont, leaving James and the children behind, and found solace in an apartment above the old Fairmont Theater. Mary Jane then reached out to James after her move, proposing that he and the children join her in Fairmont for a new start. James, however, rejected this proposal. By 1943, as the U.S. deepened its involvement in World War II, a booming demand for wartime labor led to significant shifts in the workforce. During this time, the U.S. Army Air Force unveiled plans for a new aircraft supply depot outside Shelby, Ohio, offering numerous job opportunities. Mary Jane Van Gilder seized this chance and moved from West Virginia to Plymouth, Ohio, late in 1943 or early 1944, drawn by both the need to support her family and contribute to the war effort. In Ohio, Mary Jane moved frequently but stayed near Shelby. Her last known address before her disappearance was 311 Woodland Avenue in Willard, Ohio, close to the Army Air Force Depot. She relocated there before March 8, 1945, under circumstances that remain unclear. Throughout her time in Ohio, Mary Jane maintained contact with her family, particularly her eldest daughter Anna, who was by then 14 years old. Despite the physical and possibly emotional distance, she supported her children by sending money, clothing, and war bonds back to West Virginia. However, early in 1945, a peculiar request was made. Mary Jane asked Anna to return the war bonds she'd sent. Anna complied, although she was confused by her mother's sudden change in routine. Strangely, within a month of this unusual request, Anna received another letter from her mother, which included yet another $25 war bond. This correspondence, puzzling in its timing and content, marked the last known contact Mary Jane Van Gilder had with any of her children or other family members. After this, Mary Jane Van Gilder's presence faded from the records. Her life and whereabouts dissolved into a mystery that would perplex her family and investigators for decades. In early 1945, Mary Jane Van Gilder made a decisive move that seemed to signal a desire for a new beginning. On February 12, 1945, she formally filed a petition for divorce from her husband, James, in the Chancery Records of Huron County, Ohio. The petition, somewhat obscured by smudged ink, accused James of extreme cruelty and gross neglect of duty. Just weeks later, on March 8, 1945, Mary Jane resigned from her job at the Shelby Army Air Force Depot, citing the need to address added household duties. The ambiguity of this phrase left enough room for speculation. Was she planning to take her children and start anew, or were other pressures weighing on her? Back in West Virginia, by late 1945, James Wesley Van Gilder also sought to legally end their marriage. He filed for divorce in Marion County Circuit Court before November 23, 1945. On November 26, a divorce commissioner granted his request and awarded him custody of their 5 children, describing him as the proper person to have their care. The trajectory of Mary Jane's life took a mysterious turn after these events. Her initial petition for divorce was never resolved in her favor. Instead, it was dismissed on April 4, 1946, at her own cost and request. By May 25, 1946, any remaining court costs were deducted from a deposit she'd previously made. This notation marked the last official record of Mary Jane Van Gilder's existence. Nearly 4 years after Mary Jane Van Gilder's disappearance, her daughter Anna, driven by increasing curiosity and concern for her mother's well-being, reached out to a towering figure of law enforcement in the country, Director John Edgar Hoover of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The initial correspondence between Anna and Director Hoover from late 1949 was lost, but a follow-up letter from Anna, dated January 3, 1950, indicated that the FBI responded promptly. They provided Anna with the last known address of Mary Jane at 311 Woodland Avenue in Willard, Ohio. However, Anna's letter to this address was returned, marked "not at this address." Over the ensuing years, Anna maintained intermittent correspondence with Director Hoover and other officials. Unfortunately, the original letters in the FBI files had deteriorated over time and were difficult to decipher by then. This collection of letters, notes, and a single photograph chronicled Anna's early and increasingly urgent attempts to locate her mother. They had provided investigators with many important clues about Mary Jane's life and disappearance. Despite the FBI's assistance in providing Mary Jane's last known address and formally opening a missing persons file, Director Hoover had to inform Anna repeatedly that the FBI had no jurisdiction to independently investigate the case. He advised Anna to stay in touch with local law enforcement for further action. Following Hoover's advice, Anna reached out to the sheriff of Marion County, West Virginia, who in turn contacted the chief of police in Plymouth, Ohio, as well as the Shelby Army Air Force Depot, the United States Treasury Department, and the Ohio State Highway Patrol. Their collective persistence yielded some results. In 1950, Anna still had the last war bond Mary Jane had sent her in early 1945. A letter from that year stated that the bond had been purchased via the payroll deduction system at the Shelby Depot, where Mary Jane worked until March 8, 1945. Further clues emerged in 1952 from the Shelby Depot, now renamed the Wilkins Air Force Specialized Depot. A letter dated May 20, 1952, from United States Air Force First Lieutenant Edwin Seltzer to Anna, clarified that Mary Jane had indeed left her employment at the depot on March 8, 1945, citing added household duties. Seltzer also confirmed her address during her time in Ohio, including her residence at No. 2 Truck Street in Plymouth, and prior to that at 311 Woodland Avenue in Willard. Despite accumulating significant information, Anna hit a brick wall in her investigation by 1952. Her frustration was evident in a poignant letter dated November 25, 1953, to Director Hoover, expressing her desperation to at least hear from her mother, if not meet her. Director Hoover's reply reiterated the limitations of the FBI's role in her case. Decades later, a newspaper article in 2004 revived interest in Mary Jane's case. The article led to new testimonies, including one from Mr. William H. King of Willard, Ohio, who remembered Mary Jane from his childhood. King's recollections provided a vivid glimpse into Mary Jane's life during her time in Plymouth, but offered no clues about her fate after the war. Sergeant Tom Hines of the Plymouth Police Department also responded to the article, expressing a willingness to assist, albeit with realistic expectations about the challenges of such a cold case. Unfortunately, no substantial leads emerged from these renewed efforts, and no official missing persons case was opened for Mary Jane. For several years, the case went cold. However, in October of 2018, a new breakthrough occurred in the long unsolved case of Mary Jane Croft Van Gilder, who had been missing since 1945. Her granddaughter, Mindy Wilson, approached the Shelby Police Department, compelling them to open the case officially. Shelby Police Detective Adam Turner, the officer in charge, announced that they generated an extensive file on Mary Jane with 107 supplemental reports contributing thousands of pages of investigation. Turner delved into Mary Jane's past during a press conference, detailing her life prior to her disappearance. Despite extensive searches, Turner found no previous investigations or mentions of Mary Jane in their police records. The breakthrough in the investigation came when Turner accessed Mary Jane's military file, which had been presumed destroyed. This file included her social security number, but tracking it revealed no activity post-1945. Yet Turner was persistent, analyzing every detail within the military files, which led to a crucial discovery. A page from her military file mentioned Percy L. Sebren, who had trained Mary Jane at the depot. Intriguingly, Percy later married a woman named Mary J. Sebren, who shared Mary Jane's birth date. Percy and Mary J. Sebren had children shortly after Mary Jane disappeared, suggesting why she might have cited additional household duties as her reason for resignation. Using Ancestry.com and other resources, Turner traced Percy Sebren Jr., one of their children, and contacted his family. Comparisons of photographs and signatures between Mary Jane Van Gilder and Mary J. Sebren, along with a DNA test performed in December 2023, conclusively proved that Mary J. Sebren was indeed Mary Jane Van Gilder. In 2024, a significant press conference was held at the North Central State College Kehoe Center in Shelby, Ohio, where Detective Adam Turner of the Shelby Police Department announced the resolution of the Mary Jane Van Gilder disappearance case, which had remained unsolved since 1945. After decades of mystery, the discovery that Mary J. Sebren was indeed Mary Jane Van Gilder brought mixed emotions to both her original and new families. Mary Sebren, a granddaughter, revealed that Mary J. had hinted at secrets she couldn't disclose before she passed away in 1990 from colon cancer. This left her family grappling with the reality of her hidden past and identity. The news was especially hard on Mary Jane's original children and grandchildren, who had missed and searched for her for 79 years, never understanding why she left. Wilson, speaking on behalf of Mary Jane's first family, expressed a profound mix of relief and sorrow at the closure of the case. On November 27, 1988, a simple missed phone call led to a chilling discovery. Robert Hecht never missed his weekly Sunday call with his out-of-state sister, but on that Sunday, silence hung heavy on the line. Worried, his sister contacted the authorities for a welfare check at his Rio Togas Road residence in Punta Gorda, Florida. 2 days later, on November 29th, their worst fears were confirmed. 58-year-old Robert was found lifeless in his home, mercilessly murdered. This quiet day had transformed into a horrifying scene. They investigated the case for a long time. Unfortunately, the case went cold for 3 decades. But just when hope dimmed, there was news again. What evidence could detectives have found after 30 years? And more importantly, who was responsible for this murder? Before we get into the future, let's revisit the grim scene. Investigators noticed that the scene itself painted a grim picture. Robert lay lifeless on the couch, and there was a heavy glass ashtray next to him, covered in blood. He'd been struck in the head several times. It was clear that the ashtray was the murder weapon, but there was no signs of a fight. This meant Robert was likely surprised or attacked from behind. He also appeared to have been dead for a couple of days, and the police estimated the date of his death to be the 27th, the day he missed his sister's call. Apart from the weapon, the police found another clue at the crime scene, a single cigarette butt, with potentially big implications. But there was something even more concerning. Robert's brand new Lincoln Town car was missing. It had vanished without a trace and added yet another layer of mystery to this already confusing case. As investigators dug deeper, they tried to trace Robert's movements before the murder. Witnesses claimed to have seen him on the evening of November 26, 1988, just a day before his death. But there was a new face by his side, a man named Ray. Described as a white male with a southern accent, he was an unfamiliar figure to those who knew Robert. The details about Ray were also sketchy at best. Ray claimed to be from Tennessee and Kentucky and had supposedly separated from his wife and was living with his 14-year-old daughter. So who could he be? The more they thought about it, the stranger this encounter seemed. Could he have played a part in Robert's final hours? Investigators pinned down Robert's last confirmed movements. He was seen with Ray at the Fisherman's Village Oyster Bar in Punta Gorda on the evening of the 26th. Robert had even mentioned plans to visit another bar with Ray before heading home. This established a clearer timeline and locations for Robert's final hours, but Ray remained a ghost. His identity was the biggest obstacle in the case. The search for answers went beyond Charlotte County. Then a crucial breakthrough arrived. The police learned that on November 28, 1988, in a town called Lenoir, a man was spotted leaving a store and ditching Robert's stolen car, the Lincoln he'd just bought a month earlier. It had been left abandoned on Main Street in Lenoir, North Carolina, over 700 miles from Punta Gorda. This unexpected discovery not only confirmed the theft of the car, but also suggested a potential escape route for the perpetrator. The car, now in the hands of the Lenoir police, became a key piece of evidence that could hold some important clues. Following the lead of the recovered Lincoln, crime scene investigators conducted a meticulous examination of the vehicle. Their search yielded an important piece of evidence: a single cigarette butt. This discovery was particularly interesting because during their prior investigation of Robert's home, they'd found another cigarette butt near the body. But the one in the stolen car was presumed to belong to the person responsible for the murder. The cigarette butts in his car were a significant find because Robert had a strict rule of no smoking in his car. He never smoked in it himself or allowed anyone else to do so, and this suggested that the cigarette likely wasn't from Robert, but rather a potential breadcrumb left behind by the killer. The investigation was about to take another turn just as detectives were digging deeper into the lead of the stolen Lincoln. A new witness came forward, claiming they saw a blonde woman in the passenger seat of the stolen car. This threw the whole investigation for a loop. Who was this woman? Was the blonde woman a random passenger or something more? Detectives tirelessly interviewed witnesses, searching for any inconsistencies that might lead them to the truth. As days turned into weeks, pressure grew from the media, but the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office stayed silent. The lack of motive, the mysterious Ray, and the surprising blonde woman all started to look like a planned crime gone wrong. Grief gripped Robert's family as their Sunday ritual turned into a chilling silence. With no new leads to chase and the well of clues running dry, the case eventually turned cold. Yet a question haunted the investigation. Would they ever find Robert's killer? Years passed with the Robert Hecht case lying cold, but hope was reignited in September 2021. Determined to crack the decades-old mystery, Charlotte County cold case detectives re-examined every detail. Witness interviews were prioritized, particularly those focusing on the elusive Ray. While details about Ray's claimed background emerged during the initial investigation, such as him being from Tennessee and Kentucky and separated with a daughter, limitations in technology at the time hindered progress in the investigation. This seemingly normal information wasn't enough to narrow down the suspect pool, but it held the key to unlocking the truth in 2021. With advancements in DNA technology, the cold case detectives saw renewed hope. In September 2021, the evidence was reevaluated. Both cigarette butts were submitted for DNA analysis. And to the detective's surprise, something new was found. DNA from the same person was present on both cigarettes. This discovery was monumental. It confirmed that the person who attacked Robert in his home and stole his car was the same person who smoked the cigarette found inside the vehicle. But a crucial element remained missing: a name for this DNA profile. The detectives, with renewed determination, searched the Combined DNA Index System, a national database for DNA profiles, but their search yielded no results. This meant the perpetrator wasn't linked to any previous criminal activity. Then they took the investigation a step further by submitting the results for a genealogical examination. This innovative technique uses DNA to trace an individual's ancestry, potentially leading to matches with relatives within a database. It was a risk, but it offered a path forward where traditional methods had failed. But the risk paid off. A match was discovered, a family member from Tennessee. Now, with a geographical connection established, detectives conducted interviews, studied family trees, and made direct comparisons with family members. This process, along with what they knew about the 14-year-old daughter mentioned by Ray, finally led them to the man they'd been searching for: Kenneth Ray Miller, who was just 36 when Robert Hecht was murdered. The revelation of Ray Miller's name sent shockwaves through the investigation. Witness interviews were conducted once again, this time with photographs of Ray in hand. The results were chilling. Those who'd previously encountered Ray on that fateful evening of November 26, 1988, positively identified him from the photographs. The identification wasn't the only bombshell dropped by the witnesses. After seeing Ray's image, one witness offered a startling detail. They'd not only seen Ray with Robert on the evening of November 26, but also spotted him in Robert's home the very next morning, November 27th. This proved that Ray wasn't just an acquaintance. He appeared to be comfortable enough to spend the night at Robert's residence. The witness described seeing him draped on the end of the living room couch, the same couch where Robert's lifeless body was later found. However, a cruel twist of fate emerged. When detectives looked deeper into Kenneth Ray Miller, they found that he'd passed away in 2007 at the age of 55 of natural causes, taking his secrets to the grave. While the identification brought a sense of closure, it also left a void, the unanswered questions surrounding Robert's final moments and the motive behind the attack. Despite this setback, the investigation continued, and a background check on Ray revealed a disturbing truth: a past filled with violent crimes. Aggravated battery, burglary, arson, these were just a few of the offenses that were part of his history. This violent streak painted a chilling portrait of the man who had spent his final hours with Robert. On March 22, 2024, after a relentless pursuit of justice spanning over 3 decades, the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office Cold Case Unit officially closed the case. This closure, however, was bittersweet, with the blonde woman not being found and the killer not alive to face justice. It was a closure by the death of the offender, a sad reminder that Ray would never face the consequences of his actions. The case of Robert Hecht stands as a testament of the enduring power of investigative work. Even after decades, advancements in technology and the relentless pursuit of truth can bring closure to families yearning for answers. Though the mystery may not be fully solved, the identification of Kenneth Ray Miller ensures that Robert Hecht's family has some peace.